back to where I was. So I got involved and I started going to anti-war meetings and events and marches and protests. And I started buying books and videos on all this. And I got more and more involved the more and more I realized the United States has been doing horrendous things all over the world forever. And overt wars and covertly with secret wars in both. And I decided to put together a film, a film about all this that I could show to people, and which I did finally in around 2000 is when I first put it together, 20 years after I first learned about all this. And my film, as I mentioned before, it's called What I've Learned About U.S. Foreign Policy, the War Against the Third World. And Emily should put that link up on the chat. And if not, you can Google it or you can find out about it on my website, which is addictedtowar.com. And I would procrastinate it for I procrastinated for like 6 years on this, and then in 1998 I went to see a talk by former Attorney General of the United States Ramsey Clark, who just died like a month ago, in Los Angeles at the Holman Methodist Church, with the Church of the Reverend James Lawson. And that night, after hearing Ramsey Clark talk, I went home and decided I'm going to make my film. You know, I didn't know what to do or how to do it. I did it. Came out in 2000, and it's been seen by millions of people now. It's 21 years later. It's been updated numerous times. And then, we got something happening here. Okay. And then I got the book Addicted to War by Joel Andreas in around 1998 or 99. And he wrote it in 1992 after the Persian Gulf War. And I read the book and I thought, wow, this is a fantastic book. And I got a hold of Joel. He was living in Los Angeles, going to UCLA. And he said the book was out of print and they only printed 7,000 copies in 1992. And so with the help of AK Press, we brought it back after 9/11. We brought the book back. Joel rewrote the book. And in 2002, we brought it out. I printed 20,000 copies with AK Press. And now to this day, the book is one of the most popular books in the anti-war movement. It's been, we put out almost 250,000 of them. It's all over the country and the world. It's being used by many peace and justice organizations. And it's no book like it. And you can read all about it on our website, addictedtowar.com. You can actually read the 2005 edition on our website. And I want to tell anybody listening today, if you want to get a copy, it's $15. You go to my website and you order it. If there's anybody that can't afford it, I will send it to you for free. All you have to do is contact me. Tell me you were at this meeting. I'm glad to send it out. I don't do this to make a living. I do this to help educate people. And that's what I do, to help educate people about the true nature of U.S. foreign policy through the book and through my film and through supporting all the other, or many of the other anti-war groups that are working, like Codeping and Veterans for Peace and World Beyond War and many others. And this is what I've been doing now for the last 20-something years. We've hosted many events at our house and at the Peace Center here in Culver City. And of all the things I do, I think my film is as good as anything, but the book seems to be the most popular. To this day, I still get many orders for it. And I hope any of you out there are listening right now or watching who don't have the book, please order a copy or just let me know and I'll send you one for free. It's a fantastic book. It's short. It's a comic book format. And it's endorsed by such incredible people. Codeping endorses it. Medea Benjamin endorses. Kathy Kelly, who's speaking at this event, endorses it. Veterans for Peace is my biggest customers, and so many others endorse the book. Let's see. Well, yeah, it's a hard job that we have here as peace activists because the majority of people in this country don't really want to know these things. We live what I call the big lie here. The big lie isn't that Trump won in this election. We know he didn't win, and that's a lie. And Trump is maybe the biggest liar of all time, but it's not the big lie. The big lie is what our country's done around the world, and people in this country, for the most part, don't know. And most people don't want to know. It's too horrendous to know, and it can't be. It's not what they were taught in school. It's not what their parents taught them, unless they were lucky to have anti-war parents. It's not what their church taught them. It's not what they've grown up with. And most people who have done okay in this country, which a lot of people have done okay in this country, they like what they have. They have a lot of peace and freedom and wealth. Some have wealth and a lot of good things here, quote, good things, like I have had growing up, especially if you're white. And this information that we're putting out here, it's just not what people want to know. It's not what people believe. And amazingly, most people won't even look at the information. And most of my old friends and people I know who are outside of the peace movement, outside of the anti-war movement, will not even look at the information. And there are good people, kind of person you could, people who you would help you if you needed help, but they just can't get it, what we're trying to tell them. And so my job has been trying to get that word out, get the word out more and more with all the groups I work with. And with this thing today, this event today, and working with my daughter, Emily, who's with Codeping, who is one of the best anti-war groups. But it's a hard job because people really don't want to see it. So, but I don't know what else to do, but to put that information out there. And everybody listening, once again, if you can go to my website, addictedtowar.com, you can see a lot of this. If you watch my film, What I've Learned About U.S. Foreign Policy, you can see about it. And I have another, and I also was the associate producer of a film came out in 2016, a great film. It's called Paying the Price for Peace, the story of S. Brian Wilson. And that's on my website as well. And that one is not. And then I have one other thing that I do many things, but I have put together over the years an email list of the best anti-war films that you can watch for free online. And this is the best thing of all I have to offer, really. There's not a link to it. I just have an email I can send you. So once again, if you contact me at frank.doral@gmail.com or go to my website, my emails, I have other emails. You send me an email, I can forward you this link to all these great anti-war films that are online. They're actually there. I call it U.S. 101 U.S. history, foreign policy. They don't hide it here. They're not worried about us because we don't have enough people. We don't have enough people involved for them to worry about, them being the government, the secret government, which is really the rich people, the multi-billionaires, the bankers, the oil companies, the corporations, Wall Street, and the military industrial complex, which makes war for profit, for billions of dollars and for the control of the resources of the planet. But the bad thing about it is that millions of people around the world have been killed for these wars, and it was so-called Cold War. And I mean, I was taught growing up, it's wrong to kill one person. So when you find out your country has killed between 20 to 30 million, that's just since the end of World War II. This is beyond, this is beyond evil. And it's our country doing it, I'm sorry to say, with all the good things in this country. And I grew up with them repeating, I grew up playing sports, and we watch TV and we go to the movies and all these things we do, but it's not okay. And we need people to wake up and see this. Now, to me, the biggest thing happening in the world now that needs to be attention drawn to is, of course, global warming, climate change, climate catastrophe, because it's real, it's happening. Listen to Greta Thunberg. She says, don't listen to her, listen to the scientists. But the war situation is part of it, because the US wars and militarism are a big contributor to global warming, huge. And so as Grace said yesterday, all the issues are connected, whether it's Israel and Palestine, or which anti-war we're talking about, or whether it's global warming, or whether it's racist, which is totally weird in a racist country with all these black people being killed by the police, and the poverty with all these people living under the poverty line and in this country, when there's apparently 3 or 4 multi-billionaires who have as much money as half of the rest of us combined. That's what Bernie Sanders has been saying. I think it's true, and that's horrendous. That's insanity. So once again, I guess nobody can see me, but I guess hope you all can hear me. And I just repeat what I've been saying. Go to my website, addictedtowar.com, and watch my film, What I've Learned About U.S. Foreign Policy, which should be in the chat. Send me an email if you like. You can call me too. It's 310-838-8131. That's my phone number. It's on the website, 310-838-8131. If you want to get involved and do more to help more people understand these issues, that's what I'm about. That's what the groups I work with about. I do work with Codeping. I work with Veterans for Peace. I work with World Beyond War and many other anti-war groups in this country. There are many of us. Probably millions of people know these things, but it's not enough yet. And so that's what we're doing. I thank the Peace Summit for inviting me. And I guess I'll turn this over to my daughter, Emily Doral, who's been working with Codeping now for over a year and a half. Luckily for her mother and me, she works at home because of the pandemic. And so, yeah, anyway, Codeping does great work. I love Medea Benjamin and Jody Evans, who have founded Codeping. And Emily, if you want to take it over, and then at the end, when Emily's done, we'll do a Q&A. And with anybody who wants to have any questions or make any comments, okay? Anything? Anybody even hear me? No response.
Yes. We can
Okay,
hear
now.
you.
Okay, good. Okay, well, Emily, you want to take it over?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I see a lot of familiar faces. Thanks for joining. And I am going to be kind of giving the flip side of pop culture. My dad talked about, the book and the kind of film curation and stuff he does. But I'm going to be, as the Codeping communications, social media communications director. Oh, look, there's my father.
Well, now I'm on. Finally.
After he
Sorry, I
talks.
didn't know how to do this.
I'm going to be giving that kind of flip side look. So I'm actually going to share my screen. I did like a very minimal little presentation to try and help, because I think some things are kind of difficult sometimes to understand unless you're seeing them. So let me quickly. Oh, Grace, if you could, I'm co-host, but it will not let me share my screen still.
Okay, let me see.
If not, that's okay too. I can just like go for it. Okay, here we go. Awesome. All right. Can you see my screen? It should say activism through pop culture.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay, so if it decides to work. Okay, so I think a lot of my job at Codeping is distilling a lot of these really, really complex kind of situations, foreign policy, events or actions that our government's taking, and distilling them into these very easy to digest, very like impactful and concise little like bite-sized pieces of content. Because on social media, there's so much of it, and people are constantly scrolling through and passing who knows how many things on their various feeds, whatever social media platform you're on, that you need to make it punchy and you need to make it like as compelling as possible in the shortest amount of time. So the way that I do that is I try to think of these three kind of things. And obviously there are more things that go into thinking about how to distill this information and like basically transfer it into a more social media friendly way. But I think relatability and accessibility is one of the most important things. And that also depends a lot on your audience. So what I do at Codeping is I think about the audience or the audiences that I'm interested in targeting. And that depends on, our intent. Who do we want to inform? What platform is this going on? But we want it to be relatable to people. We want people to like understand the importance of it, because I think that's something that it's easy for people to see information and it's easy to distance yourself from it if you can't personally understand that. So putting it in that framework, and I'll show you a couple examples of what I'm talking about in the next slide. But so for example, one way I always think about this is for like millennials and Gen Z, for example, one way to make it really relatable is by turning these kind of foreign policy issues and framing them in an environmental or like climate, like a concern for the climate or the environment, because that's a huge concern for a lot of millennials and Gen Zers, which it should be for everyone. But as you probably see, there's all these like protests. There's a lot of people that are environmentally conscious, younger folks, because it's our future. So framing it in that way is a way to really relate to younger folks, whereas more seasoned activists already know the basics of foreign policy, or a lot of them do, not all. But so it's you need to do less kind of welcoming into the movements, I guess, in a way that can kind of pull them in. The next thing, timely. Obviously, this is really important. Like you want it to make sense with what's going on in the world, what the current issues are, what the topics are, what people care about. And also I put trends there because for social media, for pop culture, you really want to be following the trends of what other folks are doing, what's popular. So I will also show you a couple of the trends that we kind of hop onto at Codeping to frame and deliver our messaging in a way that's, current with the trends and with current issues and events going on. And then lastly, I think it's really important to take a critical eye to all these things, because it's one thing to just like talk about it, like, you know, how news sources are supposed to be, you know, objective. But I think our job as, or my job as more of a digital, like social media based activist, is to really be critical and evaluative and try and imbue that into whatever it is I'm creating, so that it's not just the news, but it gives some perspective. It gives some critical eye as to why this is wrong or why this is, you know, immoral. So those are the three things that I just wanted to quickly go over. Again, okay, here we go. And so I think when also thinking about these you know, various things, I think about them in framing the content, as in like the messaging that you want to create. So what's like the angle of the perspective? And earlier when I was talking about audience, this is a really important thing to consider, is the way you're going to frame it is very different depending on where your audience is located, their age, any kind of demographic. I think it's really important to consider when framing this. And again, I'm going to, in the next couple of slides, show an example of how I frame things. And then there's delivering that content. And that is more relevant, I think, now, especially because of all the different ways that social media allows us to like express ourselves. So it's not just like what platform are you using? It's not like, oh, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, but is it video? Is it infographic? Is it a meme? Which I have a couple meme examples coming up that I think are pretty impactful. So it's how you do it and how you frame it. And so we're gonna go over here. So here's an example of a meme that I made this past year, using that famous picture of Bernie Sanders on Inauguration Day, sitting there. That was huge online. It was everywhere. People were like making memes with this picture of Bernie and putting him into, you know, I saw all sorts of things. People were putting like women's legs, like shaved legs on them, and like on a roller coaster, and just inserting that picture into all these different places. So I decided to insert it with help, thanks to the Codeping team, to come up with this idea. Into a picture of a Palestinian resisting home demolitions in Palestine, to show kind of where Bernie's stance is. So this is just something, it doesn't say too much right off the bat, but if you have any knowledge of this image of Bernie Sanders and where it comes from, and the kind of trend of how it's been used, and an idea of what this other man, this Palestinian man, may be doing, you can put two and two together, and that's a way to better understand kind of not only Bernie, and Bernie recently came out with a legislation to block that $735 million weapons deal to Israel. Not only that, but also how Codeping we would like to see Bernie engaging, as in, you know, resisting and talking, speaking out against US support for Israeli apartheid. So that's just one way we kind of like took something that was trending and created it into our own little thing and spit it out into this message. And it did very well. So I hope other folks, you know, resonate with other people. Here are some other ways that I like to use what's going on in the world and like news as a way to frame and also like really give a critical eye to what's going on. So these are great because I take screenshots of you know, headlines from usually like mainstream news sources. And so it gives you that kind of context and perspective of like, here's what the mainstream is saying, but then here's how it's wrong, or here's how we would say it's wrong as activists. And it gives, I think, a better way of understanding the perspective of what's going on personally. And it also allows folks to see the way that mainstream media manipulates or just like gives half truths or totally straight out lies, you know, to try and sell the narrative, right? So what we're doing here in this way is using their own stuff that they produce against them. And so that's, these are really fun to do, and I do these a lot. And you might notice now, the more you see headlines popping up, oh, all the different ways you can like edit it to actually like reflect more of what's actually going on. So that is one way that I really enjoy kind of using the trends, what's going on, and taking from mainstream sources that people also recognize, because a lot of people can be, unfortunately, you know, dubious or suspicious of things they see on the internet. And so when folks see, oh, this is from The Guardian, that for some reason that catches people's eyes. So even though that doesn't really mean anything, but so that's one way. And then I talked about, these have all been memes, but this is a very traditional meme, and a way that I think we really like at Codeping try to reach our younger audiences, because if you don't know what's going on with, you know, Yemen and Saudi Arabia, it's a huge kind of thing. It's not really that complicated, but when you try and look at it as like someone who knows very little, it can be very complex and hard to comprehend. And so by putting it in terms of this very simple picture of what we assume is this man's girlfriend being upset that he's looking at this other woman, by using that as a framework or like a template to kind of try to explain the one very small minimal aspect of the huge situation that is like the Yemeni humanitarian crisis, it gives younger people or anyone who's just entering the movement and doesn't maybe know more of an idea of what's happening, and what the Biden administration is doing. He said he'd do this, and he said he'd be loyal to this, you know, but he's doing this instead. And it's the kind of, I think it makes it pretty clear the Biden administration is doing some really backward, messed up stuff when it comes to, you know, all these weapons deals with human rights violators, as you know, such as the UAE, Israel, Saudi Arabia. So it's just these memes are a really good way to frame it in a way that's understandable. And again, this is a meme, so the picture I use is something that is all over the internet. So if you are like someone who frequently uses you know, Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, whatever, what have you, you will see this and most likely recognize the picture from somewhere. So, and I realize that this is also social media. What I'm creating here is very much geared towards younger folks. And I think it's easier to frame and deliver this content to people that already know what's going on. It can be a little more straightforward. You don't have to be quite as creative, because seasoned activists already know how horrible it is. They don't need kind of this more basic kind of explanation. And so when I get really creative with the memes and stuff, it's more geared towards the folks that don't know as much. So that's what's going on. And then let's check the time. Okay, great. I'm gonna just show a TikTok really quick that I did. They did really well. And it's another way of kind of putting, you know, what the US does to other countries in perspective. So this is a TikTok on the January 6th riots, what have you, attempted coup at the White House, or no, excuse me, at the Capitol. So I'm just gonna show this. Can you hear it? Okay. No. You can't hear it?
I think when
No.
you shared your screen, you had to also share your audio at the same time.
Ooh, I see. Okay, well, maybe this won't work at the very moment. I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out, because I should know these things. But
Send me the link. I can put it in the chat to watch later.
yeah, that would be great, Grace. Thank you so much. I'm going to send it to you once I'm done sharing my screen. But yeah, it's too bad that the screen sharing won't allow me to do audio. Oh well. Oh, maybe I can do this. Share computer sound. If I do this, let's try. I'm going to try it again. You let me know if you hear anything.
So
Great.
Yesterday's showdown at the Capitol was shocking, but it's important to remember that this violence, this is what the US government does to other countries all over the world. This, but worse. And they've been doing it for centuries. Within the past 30 years alone, the US government has violently intervened in over a dozen different countries. Iraq, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Haiti, Ecuador. I could go on. This is how the US treats other countries. We're just finally starting to get a taste.
So that was a TikTok that I made right after, January 6th. And I think based on the comments in, on our TikTok and where all the other places this was posted, it seemed to resonate with a lot of folks. And it seemed to, I think, kind of set off a little bit of some alarm bells for some people, because everyone knew about what was going on January 6th. Everyone knew. It was on all the stations everywhere. And so when people hear that that's what we're doing elsewhere, a lot of people don't even know that. They have no idea what it looks like. They have no idea how violent it can be. They have no idea the role that the US plays elsewhere. So for just, framing that and placing it in a way that like us as US based folks can understand and relate to, I think is a really good way of reaching people. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna just quickly, if you wanna follow Codeping's social media, we also have a TikTok. I didn't put up there because I just totally forgot to put it up there. But please, if you have any of these social media platforms, please follow us. That'd be great. And we can engage and be part of our online community together. So yeah, that's it for me.
Can we share?
Yes, I think we would love to hear from the audience.
I just want to say that I think it had to be 20 years ago that I saw the film. I'm not sure if I've got it quite, what I learned about US foreign policy.
Yes.
Yeah, and it is absolutely the most moving thing in terms of it's just in your DNA after you see that film. I actually have it and I should re-see it, but my recall of it was that I had no idea what our country had done in Central America during the Reagan administration. And if people could see that today, and by the way, I saw it, it was shown at my church in Evanston. Lake Street Church did a showing of it. Every church, every library, schools, this film should be used because in a very short space, it says so much about what we have been doing to other people. So I think it's a tool that we should bring back out and use all over again. And thank you, Frank. The apple didn't fall far from the tree.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Thank you very much. What was your name?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Catherine Bunton.
Thank you, Catherine.
6 months ago, I ordered 4 more copies of the book.
Oh, great.
The war. So I was talking to you not too long ago.
All right. Now, I'm wondering if Emily can put up the link to watch my film on. I never saw it there before. I don't know if you put it up before, but so because people can watch it. The 2015 edition, which I had 3 segments, is online on YouTube to watch for free. Anybody can watch it anywhere. All they have to do is click on this link. Emily, you can put that link up there. And
any way to make that go viral. That should go viral. That is so powerful.
I agree. It'd be great for people to see that. Even if you've seen it before, it's worth watching again. Like I said, in 2015, we added 3 segments to it. So it's now 13 segments. It's 2 hours and 28 minutes long. And there isn't any film like it. But also what I said before, repeating myself, if you can send me an email to frank.dorrel, DORREL @gmail.com, I can send you the email link I have to all the anti-war films that are online. There's so many other great ones that are online to watch, and I've put together in one email the links to all of them, the connections to all of them. And it's incredible. My film and all the others, Bill Moyer's The Secret Government, which is made in 1987 and played on PBS, and it's been disappeared. And War Made Easy, the film made from the Norman Solomon book, is online. And Barbara Trent's films, Cover Up Behind the Encounter Fair, and The Panel Deception are on there. And Hearts and Minds, the Academy Award-winning film about Vietnam, and Manufacturing Consent, with Noam Chomsky, and many other films are online on YouTube to watch for free. And okay, what's Emily putting up there now? What link is that, Emmy? She's putting something up there. Anyway, if you don't get this on this session, like I said, you can go to my website, email me or call me, and I can send it to you. It's I have to offer people. It's education of all these things. And before you can take action, or people will take action, they need to look at these truths. And thank you for what you said about my film. I agree with what you said. I wish more people have seen it, but a lot of people have seen it, but not enough. And so it's something you can do, is send that link to the film, to my film, to people you know who maybe haven't seen things like this. The problem is a lot of people won't want to look at it. That's all. But if more people offer to them, then maybe more people will take a look. But it's not what people here want to see. It's what I call the big lie. It's such a big lie. People can't even look at it. But it's there. It's not like it's hidden. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Frank. We have a couple questions. We're going to start with David's. David writes, does Codeping tie together all of its different social media channels for specific campaigns? Do you use analytics to modify how you present your anti-war messaging?
Thank you for your question, David. So we have national Codeping pages for social media where all of our different campaigns are kind of under the umbrella of our national Codeping pages. So we have national Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. But then for certain campaigns, we do have, special accounts. For example, we have a special Twitter account for China's Not Our Enemy, for our Latin America campaigns, for our Divest from War. So we do have a couple specialized. I don't know if that is answering that question, but I can go on to the analytics too, which we do. We do check our, monitor our analytics. We use the native insights on each platform, and we use something called Meltwater to look at how effective different messages and things we're posting are, how viral they go, how much they're discussed. And that definitely does inform how we continue creating content, because if something does really well and goes viral, we're going to keep doing that same formula rather than something that doesn't work. So the things I showed you today, those all were things that we've discovered work really well for Codeping. So I would assume they work well for other anti-war organizations too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I was impressed by the work that Codeping does in terms of its social media stuff. It's almost something that I try and aspire to in a way. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And so sorry about going too far into the weeds with the analytics question. It starts getting into nerdy territory in a way.
Rachel, you have your hand up?
Yes, hello to my dear Dorrel family. I just want to say,
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Hey, so first of all, Emily, we've talked about that social media training. I want to just publicly say that would be so wonderful to have that, some type of training for all of us digital natives to be able to traverse this a little bit more. And secondly, someone had mentioned, about Central America and not knowing until Frank's amazing movie. And I did know, and I was a high school and college student, and I've always considered Central America to be like my Vietnam. And those of us who did know at our age, it was our Vietnam. And it's so frustrating because no one cared. No one knew, no one cared, because Americans weren't dying. And so I think maybe something for young people today, and I say that as say hi to Frank and Emily. Hi. And sorry, I came on a little late, you guys. I had domestic duties. But something for young people is, and maybe all people, but like specifically young people, is that, and that pop culture is that we are dying because of wars abroad. Even though we're not dying in them, we're dying because we have no money, we have no health care, teen suicide, drugs, domestic violence, just because of our violent culture to have to create in order to justify these wars. I mean, the more we can link that, of course, so that Americans do care. And again, as a high school teacher, I just want to say one last thing is that when we, and I guess I'll bring it up, Frank, but Frank and Emily and I put on a really cool truth commission on the Cold War, kind of putting all this foreign policy together. And one of the things that came out of there was the need to, what do you do when you interject, need to get into high schools. I'm a teacher. I can't do it from the inside. All of you people have to do it from the outside. You've got to reach these kids, because I don't teach history, but I know what they're teaching. And it's no wonder the adults don't know anything in this country, because of they're churned out. Every single student, 99% of these students that come out of these high schools come out wrong-headed. So what can we do, social media wise to get into the high school crowd, Emily?
I agree with that so much. I also think that the film right now is timely because, we won't reach everybody. Obviously, some people don't want to know this stuff, but for the people who would be open and learn from it, it might help build support for these poor people coming to the border, needing asylum. It might actually help us to cover Biden's back on that issue. And, most of my friends, I don't think, I shouldn't. A lot of people I know do not realize how responsible we are for the violence in Central America and the need for these people to try to come here to be safe. And I just thought that film was really important on that issue.
Sheila, I see your hand raised. Do you have a question? Looks like Sheila is frozen at the moment.
Yeah. I got some of this information from reading books. I was in a grassroots lobby called Results, and they started recommending books by Susan George. So I read the A Fate Worse Than Debt, and then I went on to read The Debt Boomerang. And in The Debt Boomerang, I learned that 96% of Nicaragua's GDP was going to pay interest on their debt. And I read another book called Endless Enemies. I've known about Central America, and what we're doing down there is what's causing people, and in Mexico is causing people to come here. So, and I wanted to say hi to Big Frank.
Hi, Sheila.
Thanks.
Well, before we finish up with any other questions, I have put the link back to our main session. This session does end at 12:45, but I wanted to say so much thanks to Emily and Frank. This was so informative and so necessary in our conversation when we're talking about peace and justice and conflict resolution. Showing all my thanks to both of you, and for everyone else, such great questions were asked. And if anyone has any last comments before we head back to the main session, please use that link in the group chat for our closing remarks that we have for the end of the Peace Summit. But does anyone have any last comments? Shelton, you had a question about the process of writing and publishing.
I had a question that I know we only have a minute. I'll just reach out to you directly, Michael. But thank you so much for the presentation. It's been great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you, Grace, so much.
See you all back in
Thank
the
you,
main
Chicago
session.
Peace Action.
Thanks, everybody.